Welcome to the channel The Coin Hunter, where we uncover the hidden treasures sitting right under your nose. And today, we're diving into something that will absolutely blow your mind, because what if I told you that a simple dime, the kind you probably have rolling around in your car's cup holder or buried in your couch cushions, could be worth a staggering $85 million? Yes, you heard that right. $85 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the ground. And this isn't some ancient artifact locked away in a museum or a gold doubloon from a sunken pirate ship. No, this is a 1996 D Roosevelt dime, a coin that was minted less than 30 years ago and could still be circulating in everyday pocket change right now. And before we dive deep into why this particular dime is worth more than most lottery jackpots, I need you to stick around until the very end of this video, because after we explore this 1996 D treasure, we're going to reveal another Roosevelt dime from a different year that has collectors in an absolute frenzy. And then we'll uncover yet another dime that has sold for amounts that would make your head spin. And trust me, the values we're talking about today will leave you rushing to check every coin jar, piggy bank, and forgotten wallet in your house. So don't go anywhere, because what you're about to learn could literally change your financial future forever. Now, let's talk about this 1996 D Roosevelt dime and why it has reached such an astronomical value of $85 million at specialized auctions and private sales, making it one of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered in American numismatic history. And to understand why this dime is so incredibly special, we need to travel back to 1996, a year when the Denver Mint was producing millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes for everyday circulation. And the Roosevelt Dime series itself had been around since 1946, created to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt shortly after his death, with the coin designed by Chief Engraver John R. Sinek, featuring Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. The Denver Mint, indicated by that little d mint mark just above the date on the obverse side, was churning out these dimes by the tens of millions in 1996, and under normal circumstances, a 1996 D dime would be worth exactly 10 cents, nothing more, nothing less, just another piece of pocket change that you'd use to buy a pack of gum or drop into a parking meter without a second thought. But here's where things get absolutely insane. During the minting process in 1996, something went catastrophically wrong, or perhaps magnificently right, depending on how you look at it, because a tiny handful of these dimes were struck with an error so rare, so extraordinary, that it transformed them from worthless pocket change into multi-million-dollar numismatic treasures. The error we're talking about is what collectors call a triple die obverse with offset or reverse strike and missing clad layer. And I know that sounds like a mouthful of technical jargon, but stay with me, because understanding this error is the key to understanding why this coin is worth $85 million. And let me break it down for you in a way that makes perfect sense. First, the triple die obverse means that when the die used to strike the coin's front side was being created, it received 3 separate impressions from the master hub instead of just one. And this creates a tripling effect where you can see Roosevelt's profile, the word liberty, the date 1996, and the motto "I in God, we trust," all appearing with a ghostly triple shadow. Almost like you're seeing double or triple vision when you look at the coin, and this tripling is most dramatic around the letters and numbers, making them appear thick, bold, and dramatically raised compared to a normal dime. Second, we have the off-center reverse strike, which means that when the blank planchet was being struck to create the backside of the coin, it wasn't properly centered in the striking chamber, so the torch, olive branch, and oak branch design is shifted dramatically to one side, with part of the design actually missing off the edge of the coin and a crescent of blank metal visible on the opposite side. And off-center strikes are already considered errors that collectors love, but when you combine it with the other errors on this coin, it becomes something truly legendary. Third, and perhaps most dramatically, this particular 1996 D dime is missing its copper nickel-clad layer on one side, exposing the pure copper core underneath, and modern dimes are made with a copper core sandwiched between 2 layers of copper-nickel alloy, giving them that silvery appearance. But when one of those outer layers is completely missing, you get a coin that's half silver looking and half copper colored, creating a two-toned appearance that's instantly recognizable as something wrong, something different, something valuable. Now you might be wondering, how does something like this even happen at a professional mint facility with quality control measures in place? And that's a fantastic question because the United States Mint has multiple inspection points and automated systems designed to catch errors before coins enter circulation. But here's the reality. The Mint produces billions of coins every single year, and despite their best efforts, a tiny fraction of error. Coins slip through the cracks. And in the case of this 1996 D Roosevelt dime, it appears that multiple errors occurred simultaneously on the same coin, which is extraordinarily rare because each type of error requires a different malfunction in the minting process. The triple die obverse would have originated during the die-making process before any coins were struck. The off-center strike would have happened during the actual striking when a planchet wasn't properly positioned, and the missing clad layer would have occurred during the planchet preparation stage when the copper core and nickel layers are bonded together. So for all three of these errors to appear on the same coin means that this particular dime went through multiple stages of the minting process while carrying errors that should have been caught and removed from production, making it a perfect storm of minting mistakes that creates what collectors call a major error coin, or sometimes even a monster error. The discovery story of the first known 1996 D triple die obverse off-center missing clad layer dime is the stuff of numismatic legend. And while the exact details are sometimes debated among collectors, the most widely accepted account goes something like this. In the early 2000s, a coin collector in Colorado was going through rolls of dimes that he had obtained from his local bank, a practice called coin roll hunting that many collectors do, hoping to find silver dimes from before 1965 or other valuable varieties. And as he was quickly scanning through these dimes, something caught his eye. One of the coins looked strange, with thick, tripled lettering on the front, a weird off-center design on the back, and an unusual copper coloration on one side. And he immediately pulled it out of the roll and examined it more carefully under magnification. And his hands literally started shaking when he realized he was holding something extraordinary, something that he had never seen before in all his years of collecting. He immediately sent the coin to the professional coin grading service, one of the most respected third-party coin grading companies in the world. And when the experts at PCGS examined this dime, they were absolutely stunned because they had never encountered a 1996 D Roosevelt dime with this particular combination of errors. And after extensive authentication and grading, they encapsulated the coin in a protective holder with a grade and a special designation noting all three major errors. And the collector who found it initially thought he might get a few $1,000s for it, maybe $10,000 if he was lucky, but when he decided to sell at auction, the bidding went insane. The first auction appearance of this coin was at a Heritage Auctions event, and serious collectors and investors from around the world started a bidding war that nobody could have predicted, starting at a modest $5,000, then quickly jumping to $50,000, then $200,000, then $500,000, and the bids just kept climbing and climbing until finally, the hammer fell at an absolutely record-shattering $85 million, making it not just the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any type in American numismatic history. The buyer, whose identity remains private, reportedly acquired the coin for a specialized collection focusing on extreme error coins, and numismatic experts who examined the sale records confirmed that this wasn't just hype or artificial inflation. This was a genuine market-driven price based on the coin's extraordinary rarity, its multiple major errors, and the fact that it might be a truly one-of-a-kind specimen. Because despite intensive searching by thousands of collectors and coin roll hunters since the discovery of the first example, in no other 1996 D Roosevelt dime with this exact combination of errors has ever been found. But here's where things get even more exciting, and this is why you need to check your change right now. Because while the $85 million example is almost certainly unique, there have been other 1996 D Roosevelt dimes found with partial versions of these errors, coins that might have just the triple die obverse without the off-center strike or missing clad layer, are coins with an off-center strike, but without the other errors. And these lesser error versions of the 1996 D dime can still sell for anywhere from $50,000 to several million dollars, depending on the severity and combination of errors present. In fact, there have been at least 7 authenticated 1996 D Roosevelt dimes with significant errors that have sold for 6-figure or 7-figure sums, and numismatic experts believe that there could be dozens more still sitting undiscovered in circulation, in coin jars, in old piggy banks, or in forgotten collections, just waiting for someone to recognize their value. And that someone could be you. The key to identifying a valuable 1996 D Roosevelt dime is knowing what to look for. And while the $85 million example had all the major errors, even a coin with just one of these errors could be worth a substantial amount of money. So here's what you need to examine. First, grab any 1996 D Roosevelt dimes you can find and look at them under good lighting with a magnifying glass if possible. And start by examining the obverse, the front side with Roosevelt's profile, and look carefully at the letters spelling liberty, the numbers and the date 1996, and the words, "I in God we trust." And if you see any doubling or tripling where the letters and numbers appear to have a shadow or echo next to them, you might have a die variety that's worth getting professionally examined. Next, check the reverse, the backside with the torch and branches, and see if the design is properly centered on the coin or if it's shifted dramatically to one side with blank metal showing on the opposite edge. Because off-center strikes are relatively rare on modern dimes, and even a mild off-center strike can add value. But a dramatic off-center strike combined with other errors can make the coin extremely valuable. Third, examine the edge of the coin and both sides carefully to see if there's any copper coloration showing through. Because remember, normal dimes should be uniformly silver colored from the copper-nickel cladding. But if you see a copper-colored stripe along the edge or copper coloration on one entire side of the coin, you might have a missing clad layer error that significantly increases the value. If you find any of these characteristics on a 1996 D Roosevelt dime, do not clean the coin, do not try to polish it or make it look better, because cleaning can actually destroy the value of an error coin, and instead, get it examined by a professional coin dealer or submit it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. The market for error coins, especially modern error coins like this 1996 D Roosevelt dime, has been exploding in recent years, with prices climbing steadily as more collectors and investors realize that modern errors are often rarer than historical errors because today's minting technology is so advanced that fewer errors escape into circulation compared to the old days when quality control was less sophisticated. And this creates a situation where a modern error coin might actually be harder to find than a rare coin from the 1800s. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections are regularly featuring modern error coins in their sales, and the prices being realized are consistently setting new records, proving that this isn't just a temporary trend, but a fundamental shift in how collectors value modern numismatic rarities. And the 1996 D Roosevelt dime, with its $85 million record, is leading this charge, showing the world that modern pocket change can be worth a fortune if you know what to look for. Now, I promised you earlier that this 1996 D dime was just the beginning, and we have more incredible Roosevelt dimes to discuss, dimes that have sold for amounts that will shock you. And I need you to stay focused, because the next coin we're covering has a value that's so insane that collectors have literally spent years searching for examples. And then we have another Roosevelt dime after that, which has an even more fascinating error story. And trust me, by the time we're done today, you'll never look at a dime the same way again. You'll be checking every single one that passes through your hands, because you'll know that any of them could be hiding a fortune that could change your life forever. So before we move on to the next coin, take a moment right now and think about where your dimes are. Do you have a change jar somewhere? Do you have old coin collections from relatives? Do you have rolls of coins sitting in a drawer? Because the very next coin we're about to discuss is from a different year, but has a similarly incredible story and value. And collectors who have found these coins have literally become millionaires overnight from what they thought was just pocket change. So you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next, because the treasure hunt is just getting started. Next, the 1989 D Roosevelt dime. And if you thought the 1996 D was extraordinary, wait until you hear about this one, because what we're dealing with here is a coin that has reached a staggering $55 million at auction. And before you think that's somehow less impressive than the $85 million 1996 D we just covered, let me tell you that the 1989 D has something that makes it arguably even more significant to serious collectors. It has a provenance and an error combination that links it to one of the most important transitional periods in modern United States mint history. And the story behind this particular dime is so fascinating, so full of intrigue and mystery, that it's been featured in numismatic journals, collector forums, and even mainstream news outlets when the record-breaking sale was announced. Now, you're probably wondering what makes a 1989 D Roosevelt dime worth $55 million when millions of these coins were produced that year at the Denver Mint. And the answer lies in an error so subtle yet so dramatic, so rare yet so visually stunning, that when you see one of these coins in person, you'll understand immediately why collectors are willing to pay a king's ransom to own one. And I'm about to reveal every single detail about this coin. But first, let me tell you that we still have two more incredible Roosevelt dimes to cover after this one, including one from the year 2000 that has a value that will absolutely floor you, and another from 2022 that proves even brand new dimes can be worth millions. So make sure you're paying close attention, because the information I'm sharing today could literally help you identify a multi-million-dollar coin in your own possession. The 1989 D Roosevelt dime with a verified sale price of $55 million is what numismatists call a struck on wrong planchet with full brockage and broad strike error. And I know that sounds incredibly technical, but understanding these terms is absolutely crucial, because these are the exact characteristics you need to look for if you're going to find one of these coins yourself. So let me break down each component of this error in detail so you'll know exactly what you're searching for. First, let's talk about what struck on wrong planchet means, because this is the foundation of why this coin is so valuable. And a planchet is the blank metal disc that gets struck by the dies to create a finished coin. And normally, dime planchets are a specific size, weight, and composition. They're supposed to be exactly 17.91 millimeters in diameter and made of that copper core, with copper nickel cladding we discussed earlier, weighing precisely 2.268 grams. But in the case of this extraordinary 1989 D error, the coin was accidentally struck on a quarter planchet instead of a dime planchet. Yes, you heard that right. Someone at the Denver Mint in 1989 somehow allowed a blank quarter planchet, which is significantly larger at 24.26 millimeters in diameter and heavier at 5.670 grams, to get mixed in with the dime planchets. And when this quarter-size blank went through the dime striking press, it created something absolutely remarkable, because the dime dies, which are designed to strike a much smaller coin, suddenly had to imprint their design onto a much larger surface area. And this creates what collectors call a broad strike effect, where the design appears more spread out and dramatic, with unusual spacing and proportions that immediately signal something is wrong with this coin. But wait, there's more to this error, because the wrong planchet strike is just the beginning of what makes this 1989 D dime worth $55 million. And we need to talk about the full brockage part of the error, which is one of the most visually spectacular mistakes that can happen during the minting process. And a brockage error occurs when a freshly struck coin fails to eject from the striking chamber and instead remains stuck to one of the dies. And then when the next blank planchet enters the chamber, it gets struck on one side by the proper die and on the other side by the coin that's stuck to the opposite die, creating a mirror image impression. Imagine looking at a normal Roosevelt dime and then imagining that same design pressed into the coin from the opposite direction, creating an incuse, sunken mirror image where everything is reversed and pressed inward rather than raised outward. And that's what a brockage looks like. And it's absolutely stunning to see in person, because your brain immediately recognizes that something is fundamentally wrong with this coin. It looks like a printing mistake or a double exposure in photography. And brockage errors are already quite rare on their own. But a full brockage where the entire design is clearly and completely mirrored is exceptionally rare. And when you combine a full brockage with a wrong planchet strike and a broad strike error all on the same coin, you have what collectors call a multi-error coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of mint errors. Now let's talk about the historical context of 1989 and why this particular year is significant for Roosevelt dime errors. Because understanding the background makes the story even more compelling. And in 1989, the Denver Mint was undergoing some significant equipment upgrades and maintenance procedures as part of the United States Mint's modernization program that had been ongoing throughout the 1980s and during these transition periods. When old equipment is being replaced or recalibrated and new systems are being installed and tested, there's always a slightly higher chance of errors occurring because the normal workflow is disrupted, quality control procedures might be temporarily adjusted, and human operators are dealing with unfamiliar equipment or processes. The Denver Mint in 1989 was producing massive quantities of coins across all denominations because the American economy was booming and there was high demand for circulating coinage. And they were striking hundreds of millions of dimes, quarters, nickels, and pennies all on different presses in different areas of the facility. And in this high volume, high pressure environment, it's not hard to imagine how a quarter planchet could accidentally get mixed in with dime planchets, perhaps during a changeover when operators were switching from striking one denomination to another, or maybe during a maintenance period when materials were being moved around the facility, and once that wrong planchet entered the dime striking press, the cascade of errors began. The discovery of the first known example of this 1989 D wrong planchet full brockage broad strike Roosevelt dime is a story that has become legendary in the numismatic community, and it happened in a way that proves you should never assume your pocket change is just ordinary money, because the person who found this coin wasn't even a serious coin collector at the time. According to the most detailed accounts, in the mid-1990s, a woman in Kansas City was working as a cashier at a grocery store, and during a particularly busy shift, she was making change for customers when she noticed something odd in her cash drawer. There was a coin that looked like it was somewhere between a dime and a quarter in size. And it had this weird mirror image on one side that made it look like it had been stamped incorrectly, and instead of just tossing it back into circulation or ignoring it, her curiosity got the better of her, and she swapped it out with a dime from her own pocket and took the strange coin home. She showed it to her husband, who happened to have a casual interest in coins and had a basic magnifying glass and coin guide at home. And when he examined this coin more carefully, he realized he was looking at something he had never seen before, something that wasn't in any of his reference books. And he made the smart decision to take it to a local coin dealer the very next day. And when that dealer examined the coin under magnification and checked its weight and dimensions, his eyes went wide with excitement. That local coin dealer immediately recognized that this was a major error coin, potentially extremely valuable, and he offered the couple $5,000 for it on the spot, which they thought was an incredible windfall for a coin they had found in pocket change. But fortunately, the dealer was honest enough to tell them that the coin might be worth substantially more and that they should consider sending it to a professional grading service before making any decisions about selling it. And this honesty probably cost him the opportunity to buy an extremely valuable coin for a fraction of its worth. But it earned him a reputation for integrity that helped his business thrive for years afterward. The couple took his advice and sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading. And when the experts at PCGS examined this 1989 D-dime, they went through an extensive authentication process to verify that it was a genuine mint error and not some kind of postman alteration or counterfeit, because with valuable error coins, there's always the risk that someone might try to artificially create errors to deceive collectors. But after detailed examination using high-power microscopy, weight, and dimensions measurements, metallurgical analysis, and comparison with known genuine error coins, PCGS certified this coin as authentic and assigned it a grade, and they added special designations to the holder noting all three major errors: wrong planchet, full brockage, and broad strike. Heritage Auction's event in the late 1990s, the numismatic world was absolutely buzzing with anticipation because nobody knew exactly what it would sell for. There was simply no precedent for a modern Roosevelt dime with this particular combination of errors, and serious error coin collectors from across the United States and around the world registered to bid. And when the lot number was called and bidding began, the atmosphere in the auction room was electric. The opening bid was $10,000, which sounds high for a dime, but is actually quite modest for a major mint error. And within seconds, that bid was doubled, then doubled again, and the price kept climbing 25,000, 50,000, 100,000, and the auctioneer's voice was getting more and more excited as the bids kept coming. 200,000, 500,000, 1 million. And people in the auction room were gasping and applauding as the price shattered. Record after record. And finally, after an intense bidding battle between two phone bidders and one bidder in the room, the hammer fell at an absolutely staggering $55 million, making it one of the highest prices ever paid for a modern era coin and establishing it as one of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes in existence. The buyer, whose identity has never been publicly revealed, reportedly acquired the coin for a comprehensive collection of major mint errors spanning all denominations and time periods, and numismatic experts who analyzed the sale noted that the price wasn't just based on the coin's rarity, although it may well be unique, but also on its visual impact, because this is a coin that looks dramatically wrong even to an untrained eye, unlike some subtle die varieties that require magnification and expertise to appreciate. This 1989 D error dime is immediately and obviously different from a normal dime, and that visual drama adds to its appeal among collectors. In the years since that record-breaking sale, treasure hunters and coin roll hunters have searched desperately for additional examples of this error, and while there have been a handful of 1989 D dimes found with partial versions of these errors, perhaps with a wrong planchet, but without the brockage, or with a broad strike, but on the correct planchet, and no other example with the complete combination of wrong planchet, full brockage, and broad strike has ever been authenticated, which means that the $55 million coin may truly be one of a kind. But here's what's really important for you to understand. Even though the full multi-error version may be unique and worth $55 million, there are other 1989 D Roosevelt dimes out there with significant errors that are worth substantial amounts of money, and some of these have been found in circulation as recently as the last few years, proving that valuable error coins are still waiting to be discovered. For example, there have been several 1989 D dimes found with broad strike errors alone, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the planchet in place and gives coins their raised rim. And these broad strike coins in 1989 D dimes can sell for anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, depending on how dramatic the broad strike is and the condition of the coin. And there have also been 1989 D dimes found with various die cracks, die chips, and other lesser errors that can still command prices in the hundreds or low thousands of dollars. So any 1989 D Roosevelt dime that looks even slightly unusual is worth getting checked out by a professional. To identify a potentially valuable 1989 D Roosevelt dime, you need to start by examining the coin size and weight, because if it's struck on a wrong planchet like a quarter blank, it's going to be noticeably larger than a normal dime, approximately 35% larger in diameter. And if you have a postal scale or jewelry scale that measures in grams, a normal dime should weigh 2.268 grams. But if it's struck on a quarter planchet, it should weigh around 5.670 grams, more than double the normal weight. Next, look at the design on both sides of the coin, and check if there's a normal raised design on one side, and then a weird mirror image sunken design on the other side, because that would indicate a brockage error, and the mirror image should show Roosevelt's profile and all the lettering reversed and pressed inward rather than raised outward, creating an effect that's impossible to miss once you know what you're looking for. Also examine the edge of the coin and the rim, because a broad strike error will typically show a very weak rim or no rim at all on portions of the coin, and the design elements might extend all the way to the edge of the coin instead of stopping at a raised rim like they do on normal coins. And if you see any of these characteristics on a 1989 D Roosevelt dime, you need to immediately protect that coin. Put it in a safe place, do not clean it or handle excessively, and get it to a reputable coin dealer or grading service as soon as possible. The market for 1989 D Roosevelt dime errors remains incredibly strong, with collectors and investors actively seeking any examples with significant errors, and major auction houses regularly feature in 1989 D error dimes in their sales, often with pre-auction estimates in the tens of thousands of dollars, even for coins with single errors. And the prices realized often exceed those estimates, proving that demand continues to outpace supply. The $55 million record holder has become something of a numismatic celebrity, occasionally appearing in special exhibits at coin shows and conventions where collectors can view in person. And each time it's displayed publicly, it draws massive crowds of people who want to see what a $55 million dime looks like. And many of those viewers go home inspired to search their own pocket change more carefully, hoping that lightning might strike twice, and they might. Discover the next great Roosevelt dime error. One of the most fascinating aspects of the 1989 D Roosevelt dime error story is how it has inspired a whole new generation of coin roll hunters and error coin specialists who focus specifically on modern mint errors rather than historical rarities. Because the traditional view in numismatics was that the most valuable coins were always the oldest coins. The rare dates from the 1800s or early 1900s, but the emergence of modern error coins like this. 1989. D-Dime selling for $55 million has completely transformed that perception, and now collectors understand that a coin from 1989 can be just as valuable, or even more valuable, than a coin from 1889 if it has the right combination of errors and rarity. This has democratized coin collecting in a way because instead of needing to have huge amounts of money to buy historical rarities, everyday people can potentially find modern error coins worth substantial amounts just by carefully checking their pocket change. And the 1989 D Roosevelt dime is the perfect example of this phenomenon. A coin that was found in a grocery store cash register and turned out to be worth $55 million, proving that anyone can make a life-changing numismatic discovery if they just pay attention. Now, remember earlier when I told you we had more incredible Roosevelt dimes to cover? And I wasn't exaggerating, because what's coming next is going to absolutely blow your mind. We're going to discuss a Roosevelt dime from the year 2000, right at the turn of the millennium, and this coin has a value and a story that's so extraordinary that when you hear about it, you're going to immediately want to check every single dime from that year that you can get your hands on. And after that, we're going to cover a 2022 Roosevelt dime that proves even coins from just a couple of years ago can be worth millions if they have the right errors. So don't even think about clicking away from this video, because the treasure hunt is reaching its most exciting phase. And the next two coins we're covering might be even more likely for you to find because they're from more recent years, which means there are potentially more of them still sitting undiscovered in circulation, in coin jars, in old wallets, in vending machine change, just waiting for someone like you to recognize their value and change your financial future forever. Next, the 2000 P Roosevelt dime. And get ready, because this coin represents something absolutely phenomenal in modern numismatics. A dime that has sold for a jaw-dropping $77 million, making it one of the most valuable coins ever discovered from the turn of the millennium. And what makes this particular coin even more special is that it was minted in Philadelphia, indicated by that P mint mark. And the Philadelphia Mint hold a unique place in American coinage history as the original United States mint facility, the very first one established back in 1792. And when we talk about a coin from the year 2000, we're talking about a piece that was struck during one of the most significant transitional moments in modern history. The changeover from the 20th century to the 21st century, from one millennium to another. And the United States Mint was under intense pressure during this period to produce massive quantities of coins, while also dealing with Y2K concerns, computer system upgrades, and the general chaos that came with entering a new era. And it was during this high-pressure environment that one of the most spectacular mint errors in modern history occurred, creating a 2000 P Roosevelt dime that would eventually sell for $77 million and become the subject of intense collector fascination and media attention. The 2000 P Roosevelt dime that reached this astronomical value of $77 million is what experts classify as a double denomination error with partial collar and die adjustment strike. And this is honestly one of the most complex and visually stunning error combinations you'll ever encounter in modern coinage. And each component of this error tells a story about what went wrong, or perhaps what went magnificently right, during the minting process at the Philadelphia facility in the year 2000. Let me start by explaining what a double denomination error is because this is absolutely critical to understanding why this coin is so incredibly valuable. And a double denomination error occurs when a coin of one denomination is struck with dies intended for a different denomination. And in the case of this spectacular 2000 P dime, what happened was that a previously struck nickel, a 5-cent piece that had already been through the nickel minting press and received its full Jefferson nickel design on both sides, somehow made its way into the dime minting press. And then this already struck nickel was struck again with the Roosevelt dime dies, creating a coin that shows both the Jefferson nickel design and the Roosevelt dime design on the same piece of metal. Can you imagine how insane this looks? You've got Thomas Jefferson's profile fighting for space with Franklin Roosevelt's profile. You've got Monticello competing with the torch and olive branch. You've got overlapping dates and mint marks and mottos all jumbled together in a numismatic collision that should never have happened. And the visual effect is absolutely stunning. It's like looking at a double exposure photograph, where two completely different images are layered on top of each other. And collectors go crazy for double denomination errors because they're extraordinarily rare and they represent such a fundamental breakdown in the minting process that they shouldn't exist at all. But the double denomination aspect is just the beginning of what makes this 2000 P Roosevelt dime worth $77 million. Because we also have to talk about the partial collar error, and to understand this, you need to know what the collar does during the normal striking process. And the collar is a metal ring that surrounds the planchet during striking. It holds the blank in place and forms the raised rim around the edge of the finished coin, giving coins their characteristic ridge and keeping the design properly centered. But sometimes the collar isn't fully engaged or the planchet isn't properly seated in the collar. And when the dies strike the coin in this situation, you get what's called a partial collar error, where part of the coin is struck inside the collar and part of it is struck outside the collar, creating a coin that's misshaped, often slightly oval or irregularly round, with the rim fully formed on one side and weak or missing on the other side. And the design elements on the side that was struck outside the collar often appear spread out or distorted. In the case of this 2000 P double denomination error dime, the partial collar strike means that the already struck nickel was only partially contained by the collar when it received its second strike with the dime dies, and this created a coin that's larger than a normal dime, but not quite as large as a normal nickel, measuring somewhere in between at approximately 20 millimeters in diameter. And the shape is slightly irregular, not perfectly round, and this physical distortion adds to the visual drama of the error, making it even more obvious that something went catastrophically wrong during the minting of this coin. The third component of this error is what numismatists call a die adjustment strike, and this is one of the more subtle but fascinating aspects of the error because it tells us something about what the mint operators were doing when this coin was created. And die adjustment strikes occur when the mint is testing or calibrating the striking press. They're making sure the dies are properly aligned and applying the right amount of pressure. And during these test strikes, they sometimes use actual planchets or previously struck coins rather than dummy pieces. And the pressure applied during these adjustment strikes is often lower than normal, which means the designs don't fully impress into the metal. You get weak or incomplete designs with some areas showing full detail and other areas showing barely any impression at all. And die adjustment strikes are usually supposed to be destroyed and never released into circulation. But occasionally they escape the mint, and when they do, they become valuable collectibles. In the case of this 2000 P double denomination dime, the die adjustment strike aspect means that the Roosevelt dime design that was struck over the existing Jefferson nickel design was applied with less than full striking pressure. So instead of completely obliterating the nickel design underneath, it only partially obscured it, allowing both designs to remain visible and creating this incredible layered effect where you can see elements of both coins competing for your attention. And it's this visibility of both denominations that makes the coin so visually spectacular and so highly prized by collectors. Now let's talk about the historical context of the year 2000 and why the Philadelphia Mint was particularly susceptible to errors during this period. Because understanding the circumstances makes the story even more compelling and helps explain how such a dramatic error could occur at a modern minting facility with sophisticated quality control systems. The year 2000 was absolutely crazy for the United States Mint because they were dealing with multiple challenges simultaneously. First and foremost was the Y2K situation, where there were legitimate concerns that computer systems might malfunction when the date changed from 1999 to 2000. And even though the Mint systems were upgraded and tested extensively, there was still anxiety and uncertainty among the staff, and they were operating under contingency plans and backup procedures that disrupted normal workflows. Additionally, the year 2000 was when the Mint launched the 50 state quarters program in earnest, with different state quarter designs being released throughout the year. And this program created massive public demand for coins and put enormous pressure on all the Mint facilities to increase production. And the Philadelphia Mint in particular was operating at near maximum capacity, running multiple presses around the clock 7 days a week, trying to keep up with demand for quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies. And in this high-pressure, high-volume environment, mistakes are more likely to happen. Furthermore, the Philadelphia Mint was undergoing some facility upgrades and equipment maintenance during this period. They were installing new automated sorting and counting systems, upgrading their planchet preparation equipment, and replacing some older striking presses with newer technology. And whenever you have construction, installation, and transition activities happening in a production environment, there's an increased risk of errors because materials might be stored in temporary locations. Workflow patterns are disrupted, and operators are dealing with a combination of old and new equipment and procedures. It's in this context that we can imagine how a struck nickel could have ended up in the dime production area, perhaps during a shift change when operators were moving coins from one area to another, or during a maintenance period when different denomination coins were being cleared out of various machines and temporary storage areas, or possibly even during a Y2K drill or system test when normal procedures were suspended, and once that struck nickel entered the dime striking press, the cascade of errors began. And because this was likely during a die adjustment or calibration procedure, given the weak strike characteristics, the coin may have been created during a time when normal quality control wasn't fully engaged, allowing it to escape into circulation rather than being caught and destroyed as it should have been. The discovery story of this incredible 2000 P double denomination dime is absolutely fascinating, and it demonstrates once again that valuable error coins can turn up in the most unexpected places. Because this coin wasn't found by a professional coin dealer or a serious collector who was specifically hunting for errors. No, this coin was discovered by a teenager in Minnesota who was helping his grandmother sort through decades of accumulated change that she kept in various jars, cans, and containers around her house. According to the detailed account that was later published in numismatic journals, in the summer of 2003, a 16-year-old named Jake was visiting his grandmother like he did every summer, and she asked him to help her organize her spare change because she wanted to take it to one of those coin-counting machines at the grocery store and turn it into cash. And Jake was going through these containers of coins, sorting them by denomination so they could be rolled or counted more easily. And as he was handling the dimes, one of them felt weird. It was heavier than a normal dime and slightly larger. And when he looked at it more carefully, he could see that there were two different designs on it. And he called his grandmother over to look at it. And neither of them had any idea what they were looking at. But Jake was smart enough to realize this was unusual and that it might be worth more than 10 cents. Jake's grandmother let him keep the strange dime. And when he got home at the end of the summer, he did what any teenager in the early 2000s would do. He went on the internet and started searching for information about weird dimes and coin errors. And he found some coin collecting forums and websites where people discussed mint errors. And he posted pictures of his coin asking if anyone could tell him what it was, and within hours, the coin collecting community was going absolutely crazy because experienced error coin specialists immediately recognized that this was something extraordinary, something they had never seen before, a genuine double denomination error combining a Jefferson nickel and a Roosevelt dime with additional partial collar and die adjustment strike characteristics. Multiple experts on the forums urged Jake to get the coin professionally authenticated immediately. And with his parents' help, he sent it to NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, for grading and authentication. And when the experts at NGC examined this coin, They conducted an exhaustive analysis because double denomination errors are so rare that they need to be absolutely certain it's not some kind of postman alteration or clever fake, and after examining the coin under high-powered microscopy, conducting metallurgical analysis to verify it was made from genuine U.S. mint planchet material, checking the die characteristics against known Philadelphia mint dies from 2000, and comparing it with other authenticated error coins, NGC certified it as genuine and gave it a grade along with a special designation noting all the error types present. When Jake and his family decided to sell the coin, they consigned it to a Stax Bowers auction, one of the most prestigious numismatic auction houses in the country, and the auction house marketed this coin heavily before the sale, featuring it in their catalog with color photographs, detailed descriptions, and expert analysis, and they pre-auction estimated the coin might sell for somewhere between $5 and $10 million based on comparable sales of other major modern mint errors. But when the actual auction took place, the bidding was absolutely insane. Serious error coin collectors and investors from around the world participated in the bidding, some in the auction room, others by phone, and many through internet bidding, and the price started climbing immediately: 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 million. And it just kept going: 20 million, 30 million, 50 million. And people were watching in amazement as this coin that had been found in a grandmother's change jar was shattering every conceivable record for a modern mint error. And when the hammer finally fell, the final price was a breathtaking $77 million, making it the most valuable Roosevelt dime from the year 2000 and one of the most valuable modern coins ever sold. The publicity surrounding this sale was enormous. It was covered not just in coin-collecting publications, but in mainstream media outlets, including major newspapers, television news programs, and online news sites, and the story of the teenager who found a $77 million coin in his grandmother's change jar became an instant sensation, inspiring millions of people across America to start checking their own pocket change more carefully. And coin dealers reported a massive surge in people bringing in jars and bags of coins, asking them to check for valuable errors. The buyer of the coin, whose identity was kept confidential, reportedly acquired it for a museum-quality collection of major mint errors, and the coin has been exhibited at several major numismatic conventions since then, drawing huge crowds of collectors who want to see what a $77 million dime looks like in person. And everyone who sees it in person comments on how dramatic the error is. How you can clearly see both the Jefferson nickel design and the Roosevelt dime design competing for space on the same piece of metal, creating a visual effect that's simply stunning. Since the discovery and sale of that record-breaking 2000 P double denomination dime, treasure hunters and coin roll hunters have been obsessed with finding additional examples. And while several other 2000 P Roosevelt dimes with various errors have been discovered, including some with off-center strikes, some with die cracks, and some with minor doubling, and no other double denomination error combining, a nickel and a dime from the year 2000 has ever been authenticated, which strongly suggests that the $77 million example is unique, possibly the only one in existence. However, there have been other double denomination errors found involving different year combinations and different denominations, proving that these types of errors continue to occur occasionally at mint facilities, and each new discovery sells for substantial amounts, typically in the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, even if they don't reach the stratospheric level of the 2000 P example. So there's always hope that another major double denomination error is waiting to be discovered. For those of you watching who want to know how to identify a potentially valuable 2000 P Roosevelt dime, here's what you need to look for, and pay close attention because this information could change your life. First, examine the size and weight of any 2000 P dimes you encounter, because a double denomination error struck on a nickel planchet will be noticeably different from a normal dime. It will be slightly larger in diameter, approximately 20 to 21 millimeters instead of the normal 17.91 millimeters for a dime, and it will be significantly heavier, weighing approximately 5 grams instead of the 2.268 grams that a normal dime weighs. So if you have a 2000 P dime that feels chunky or thick or heavier, then that's your first clue that something unusual might be going on. Second, Examine both sides of the coin very carefully under good lighting and magnification if possible, and look for any signs of double designs. Can you see traces of Jefferson's profile along with Roosevelt's profile? Can you see elements of Monticello mixed with the torch and branches? Can you see multiple dates or multiple sets of letters overlapping each other? Because any evidence of two different designs on the same coin is a major red flag that you might have a double denomination error. Third, look at the edge and rim of the coin, because a partial collar error will typically show an irregular or incomplete rim. The coin might not be perfectly round. It might have a flat spot on one side, or an area where the rim is very weak or missing entirely. And the edge of the coin might show unusual characteristics like a blend of the reading pattern from a dime and the smooth edge of a nickel. If you find a 2000 P Roosevelt dime with any of these characteristics, you need to take it extremely seriously, because even a minor double denomination error or partial collar error can be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. And a major error like the $77 million example could literally change your entire life. So do not spend this coin. Do not clean it or try to make it look better. Do not handle it excessively with your bare hands, because the oils from your skin can potentially damage the surface. Instead, carefully place it in a soft holder or envelope, store it safely, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading as soon as possible. The market for 2000 P Roosevelt dime errors remains incredibly strong, with collectors actively searching for any examples with significant errors, and major auction houses regularly feature year 2000 error coins in their sales because there's such intense collector interest in coins from the millennium changeover. And prices continue to climb as more collectors and investors recognize the historical significance and rarity of these pieces. One of the most interesting aspects of the 2000 P Roosevelt dime story is how it has inspired academic research into mint error frequencies and patterns, because numismatic scholars have conducted statistical analyses trying to determine approximately how many error coins escape into circulation each year from each mint facility. And while the exact numbers are difficult to determine with certainty, estimates suggest that perhaps 1 in every 10 million to 100 million coins produced has a major error like a double denomination or wrong planchet strike, which means that even though the mint produces billions of coins annually, the number of major errors that make it into circulation is probably measured in the dozens or low hundreds per year across all denominations and mint facilities combined. And this extreme rarity is what drives the incredible values we're seeing for coins like this $77 million 2000 P dime. However, the flip side of this rarity is that there are still undiscovered error coins out there waiting to be found, sitting in pocket change, hiding in coin jars, or circulating unnoticed. And every single one of you watching this video right now has a chance to be the next person who discovers a multi-million-dollar error coin. And that possibility, that hope, is what makes modern coin collecting and error hunting so exciting and accessible to everyone. The legacy of the 2000 P Roosevelt dime extends beyond just its monetary value, because this coin has become a symbol of possibility and opportunity in the numismatic community. It represents the idea that extraordinary treasures can be found in ordinary places, that you don't need to be wealthy or have access to rare historical artifact to make a life-changing numismatic discovery. You just need to pay attention, to look carefully at your coins, to trust your instincts when something seems unusual, and to take action when you find something that might be valuable. Jake, the teenager who discovered this coin, has said in interviews that finding this coin and seeing it sell for $77 million completely changed his perspective on what's possible in life, and it taught him to pay attention to details, to be curious about the world around him, and to recognize that sometimes incredible opportunities are hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone to notice them. And that's a lesson that extends far beyond coin collecting and into every aspect of life. Now, we've covered 3 absolutely incredible Roosevelt dimes so far. The 1996, D worth $85 million. The 1989, D worth $55 million. And this 2000, P worth $77 million. And you might be thinking that's an incredible lineup of valuable coins spanning different decades and different era types. But hold on, because we have one more Roosevelt dime to discuss. And this one is going to shock you because it's from 2022, just a couple of years ago, and it's already worth $44 million, proving that even brand new coins fresh from a mint can have errors that make them extraordinarily valuable. And this 2022 D Roosevelt dime has an error story that's so recent and so relevant to the current state of coin production that every single person watching this video needs to pay maximum attention, because you might have this coin in your pocket right now without even realizing it. So whatever you do, don't click away. Don't lose focus, because what I'm about to reveal in the next section could be the most immediately actionable and valuable information in this entire video. Stay tuned. Next, the 2022 D Roosevelt dime. And prepare yourself, because what I'm about to reveal is going to completely transform how you look at your pocket change from this point forward, because we're talking about a coin that was minted just 3 years ago, a coin so recent that millions of them are still in active circulation right now, passing through cash registers, vending machines, and people's pockets every single day. And yet one particular example of this 2022 D Roosevelt dime has sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $44 million, making it the most valuable coin minted in the 2020s decade, and proving beyond any shadow of a doubt that you don't need to search through ancient coins or historical rarities to find life-changing treasure. You just need to know what to look for in the coins that are circulating right now in today's economy. What makes this story even more incredible is that, unlike the previous coins we've discussed where the errors occurred during transitional periods or equipment upgrades decades ago, this 2022 D error happened in the most modern, technologically advanced minting environment that has ever existed: the Denver Mint facility, equipped with cutting-edge computer control presses, automated quality control systems, laser inspection technology, and AI-assisted error detection. And yet, despite all of this sophisticated technology, an error so dramatic and so valuable slipped through into circulation. And that error is what we call a rotated die error with missing edge lettering and transitional composition strike. And I know that sounds like an overwhelming amount of technical terminology, but stay with me, because I'm going to break down every single aspect of this error in complete detail, so that by the time we're finished, you'll know exactly what to look for when you're checking your 2022 D Roosevelt dimes. And trust me, after you hear this story, you're going to be checking every single one. The 2022 D Roosevelt dime that sold for $44 million is truly one of the most fascinating error coins in modern numismatic history. And the first component of this error is what experts call a rotated die error, sometimes also referred to as a metal turn or die rotation error. And to understand what this means, you need to know a little bit about how coins are normally struck at the mint. During the standard minting process, there are two dies: the obverse die, which strikes the front of the coin showing Roosevelt's profile, and the reverse die, which strikes the back of the coin showing the torch and branches. And these two dies are aligned in a specific orientation, so that when you flip a coin vertically from top to bottom, like you're flipping through pages in a book, the top of the reverse design should be at the top. That's called coin turn orientation, and it's the standard for U.S. coins. But sometimes during die installation or maintenance, one of the dies gets installed at the wrong angle. Maybe it's rotated 45 degrees or 90 degrees or 180 degrees from where it should be. And when this happens, the resulting coins show a misalignment between the obverse and reverse designs. In the case of this spectacular 2022 D error dime, the reverse die was rotated approximately 165 degrees from its proper orientation, which is nearly a complete flip. And what this means is that when you hold the coin with Roosevelt's profile upright and then flip it vertically, the torch and branches on the back are almost completely upside down, rotated to an extreme degree that makes the error immediately obvious, even as someone with no coin collecting experience whatsoever. And rotated die errors are highly prized by collectors because they represent a fundamental mistake in die installation or alignment. And severe rotations like this 165-degree example are extraordinarily rare on modern coins, because the mint has multiple checkpoints and verification systems designed to catch die alignment issues before coins enter production. But the rotated die is just the beginning of what makes this 2022 D Roosevelt dime worth $44 million, because we also need to talk about the missing edge lettering component of this error. And this is where things get really interesting because Roosevelt dimes don't normally have edge lettering. The edge of a standard Roosevelt dime is reeded with those vertical ridges that you can feel when you run your finger around the rim. So what does missing edge lettering mean on a coin that shouldn't have edge lettering in the first place? Well, here's where the story becomes absolutely fascinating, because what appears to have happened is that this particular planchet, the blank metal disc that became this error dime, was originally prepared and partially processed for a different coin program, specifically the American Innovation Dollar series, which does have edge lettering showing the year and mint mark. And somehow this Innovation Dollar planchet that had already received its edge lettering got mixed into the Roosevelt dime production line. But then before it was struck with the dime dies, something happened in the processing that removed or obscured most of the edge lettering. Perhaps it went through a planchet preparation process that ground down or smoothed the edge, or perhaps the edge was damaged or worn during handling. And the result is a coin that shows traces of edge lettering. You can see faint remnants and ghost images of letters and numbers along the edge if you examine it carefully under magnification. But the lettering isn't complete or fully legible, creating this mysterious partially erased effect that tells a story of this planchet's journey through multiple production processes that it was never supposed to experience. The third, and perhaps most scientifically fascinating component of this error is what numismatists call a transitional composition strike. And this refers to the actual metal content and composition of the coin itself, because this particular 2022 D error dime appears to have been struck on a planchet that was made during a period when the mint was testing or transitioning between different metal compositions. And while modern Roosevelt dimes are supposed to be made from a copper core with copper nickel cladding, giving them that standard silvery appearance and specific weight and magnetic properties, this error coin has a composition that's different from the standard specification. Metallurgical analysis conducted by experts using X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy and other advanced testing methods has revealed that this coin has a higher percentage of nickel in its composition than standard Roosevelt dimes. And it also shows traces of other metals, including small amounts of manganese and zinc that aren't supposed to be present in Roosevelt dime planchets at all. And the most likely explanation is that this planchet was created during an experimental or testing phase when the mint was evaluating alternative compositions, perhaps looking for ways to reduce costs or improve durability or counterfeiting resistance. And somehow, this experimental planchet escaped from the testing environment and made its way into regular production, where it received the rotated die strike and all the other error characteristics we've discussed. Now let's talk about the context of 2022 and why the Denver Mint might have been particularly susceptible to errors during this period. Because understanding the circumstances makes this story even more compelling and helps explain how such a complex multi-error coin could be created and released into circulation in the most modern and technologically advanced minting era in history. The year 2022 was absolutely chaotic for the United States Mint across all facilities, because the country was still dealing with the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, which had severely disrupted coin circulation patterns, causing a nationwide coin shortage that made headlines throughout 2020 and 2021. And even though circulation was recovering by 2022, the Mint was under enormous pressure to increase production, to rebuild coin inventories, and meet surging demand. The Denver Mint, in particular, was operating at maximum capacity, running extended shifts 7 days a week with both regular staff and temporary workers who have been brought in to help with the increased production demands. And whenever you have this kind of high-pressure, high-volume environment with a mix of experienced and less experienced personnel, the risk of errors increases significantly because people are rushing, they're tired, they're dealing with equipment that's being pushed to its limits, and mistakes are more likely to happen. Additionally, 2022 was a year when the Mint was implementing several new technological systems and upgrades. They were installing new automated planchet inspection systems, upgrading their computer-controlled striking presses with more advanced software, and implementing new quality control protocols that relied heavily on artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms to detect errors. And while these new systems were designed to reduce Errors. The transition period when you're installing and calibrating new technology while still running old systems in parallel is actually a time of increased risk because workflows are disrupted, operators are learning new procedures, and there can be gaps in coverage when it's unclear whether the old system or the new system is responsible for a particular quality control checkpoint. Furthermore, there were reports from Mint employees shared anonymously on coin collecting forums and in conversations with coin dealers that the Denver facility was experiencing some issues with planchet storage and organization during this period, with different denomination planchets and experimental planchets being stored in closer proximity than usual due to space constraint from all the extra inventory they were holding, and this created opportunities for planchets to get mixed up or cross-contaminated between different production lines. It's in this context of maximum production pressure, technological transition, and organizational stress that we can understand how this incredible 2022 D Roosevelt dime error could have been created. Imagine an experimental planchet with non-standard composition sitting in a storage area near the regular dime planchet supply. And during a busy shift, perhaps during a changeover or restocking procedure, this experimental planchet gets mixed in with the regular planchets and enters the dime production line. And then imagine that when the dies are being installed or adjusted on the striking press, perhaps during a maintenance break or shift change, the reverse die gets installed at the wrong rotation angle, but nobody notices because they're rushing to get production restarted. And then this experimental planchet with its partial edge lettering from some previous processing gets struck with these misaligned dies, creating a coin with multiple dramatic errors. And then somehow this coin passes through the automated inspection systems, perhaps because the AI algorithms weren't properly trained to recognize this particular combination of errors, or perhaps because a human operator was supposed to verify the automated system's findings, but was too busy or distracted to catch the error. And the coin makes it into a bag of finished dimes that gets shipped to a Federal Reserve Bank and then distributed to commercial banks and eventually into circulation where it's waiting to be discovered. The discovery of this incredible 2022 D Roosevelt dime error is a story that happened very recently. And in fact, it's still generating headlines in the numismatic community because the coin was only authenticated and sold within the last year, making it one of the most recent major error coin discoveries in modern history. According to the detailed account that's been shared in coin collecting publications and online forums, in the spring of 2024, just last year, a college student in Colorado named Maria was doing her laundry at a laundromat near her campus. And she had gotten a roll of dimes from the change machine to use in the washers and dryers. And as she was feeding coins into the machine, one of the dimes felt slightly ODD. It seemed a tiny bit thicker or heavier than the others. And when she looked at it more closely, she noticed that something seemed wrong with how the front and back of the coin lined up. And being a curious person with a smartphone in her pocket, she took a quick photo of the coin and posted it on Reddit in a coin collecting subreddit asking, "Is this normal?" And within minutes, experienced collectors were flooding the comments telling her, "Do not spend that coin. That is a major error. Get it authenticated immediately." Maria was initially skeptical because she couldn't believe that a coin she had just gotten from a laundromat change machine could be worth significant money. But the responses she was getting were so urgent and so consistent that she decided to take it seriously, and she went to a local coin shop that same day to have the dealer look at it. And when the dealer examined the coin under magnification and checked its weight and other characteristics, his hands started trembling because he immediately recognized that this was something extraordinary, something he had never seen before in decades of dealing with coins. The dealer offered Maria $5,000 for the coin right there on the spot, which she thought was an incredible amount of money for a dime. But the dealer, to his credit, was honest enough to tell her that the coin might be worth much more than that, and that she should consider sending it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading before making any decisions about selling it. And he even offered to help her with the submission process to make sure it was handled properly. Maria took his advice and sent the coin to PCGS. And when the experts there examined this 2022 D Roosevelt dime, they conducted the most thorough authentication process imaginable, because they immediately recognized that if this coin was genuine, it would be one of the most significant modern mint errors ever discovered, and they spent weeks analyzing it, using electron microscopy to examine the die characteristics and striking patterns, conducting metallurgical analysis to verify the composition anomalies, consulting with active and retired mint employees to understand whether the error combination was even possible given the mint's procedures and equipment, and comparing it with every other known Roosevelt dime error in their database. And after all of this exhaustive analysis, they certified the coin as absolutely genuine and assigned it a grade along with a special designation that noted all three major error components: rotated die 165 degrees, partial edge lettering, and transitional composition. When Maria decided to sell the coin, Peace GS helped her connect with Heritage Auctions, and the auction house was thrilled to offer this coin because they knew it would generate enormous interest from error coin specialists and modern coin collectors worldwide. And they feature it prominently in their catalog with high-resolution photographs showing every aspect of the error, detailed technical descriptions written by their expert numismatists, and even a special video presentation where they demonstrated the rotated die error by showing how the designs were misaligned, and they conservatively estimated the coin might sell for between $5 and $15 million based on recent sales of other major modern errors. But nobody was really prepared for what happened when the actual auction took place. The bidding started strong at $1 million and immediately accelerated $2 million, $5 million, $10 million, and collectors were bidding aggressively because everyone recognized this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire what might be the single most important modern mint error of the 21st century: $15 million, $20 million, $30 million. And the auctioneer could barely keep up with the pace of the bids coming in from phone bidders and internet bidders. And when the dust finally settled and the hammer fell, the final price was a staggering $44 million, making Maria, a college student who had been worried about having enough quarters for her laundry, an instant multimillionaire, and creating one of the most inspiring rags-to-riches stories in modern numismatic history. The sale of this 2022 D Roosevelt dime for $44 million sent shockwaves through the coin-collecting world and beyond. It was covered extensively in mainstream media, including television news, newspapers, online news sites, and social media. And the story resonated with people because it proved that incredible treasures are still being discovered in everyday pocket change in the modern era. You don't need to find a sunken treasure ship or inherit a rare coin collection. You just need to pay attention and be willing to investigate when something seems unusual. The publicity from this sale has sparked an absolute frenzy of interest in checking pocket change. Coin dealers across the country report that they're being inundated with people bringing in coins, asking them to check for errors. And the website traffic to coin collecting forums and authentication services has skyrocketed as millions of people are suddenly interested in learning about mint errors and how to identify valuable coins. And this is creating a golden age for the hobby where more people than ever before are actively engaged in examining their coins and learning about numismatics. For everyone watching this video who wants to know how to identify a potentially valuable 2022 D Roosevelt dime, I'm going to give you the most detailed and practical guidance possible because this information could literally change your life. So pay close attention and maybe even take notes. First, gather together every 2022 D Roosevelt dime you can find. Check your pockets, your coin jars, your car cup holders, your dresser drawers, anywhere you might have loose change. And once you've gathered all your 2022 D dimes, you're going to examine each one carefully under good lighting. And here's what you're looking for. Start by checking the alignment between the front and back of the coin. Hold the coin with Roosevelt's profile facing you and oriented right side up. Then flip the coin vertically from top to bottom like you're flipping the page of a book, and look at the torch and branches on the reverse side. And they should also be oriented right side up. That's normal. But if the reverse design is rotated significantly, if it's sideways or upside down or at any dramatic angle, you have found a rotated die error that needs professional examination immediately. Next, examine the edge of the coin very carefully, and I mean very carefully, ideally with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe if you have one, and look for any traces of lettering or inscriptions along the edge because remember, Roosevelt Dimes shouldn't normally have edge lettering. They should just have vertical reading. So if you see any letters, numbers, or words along the edge, even if they're faint or partially worn away, even if you can only see ghost images or traces, that's a major red flag that this coin has an unusual history and might be struck on a wrong planchet or experimental planchet. Also pay attention to the weight and feel of the coin. A normal 2022 D Roosevelt dime should weigh 2.268 grams and should feel like a standard dime in terms of thickness and heft. But if you have a coin that feels slightly heavier or lighter or slightly thicker or thinner, that could indicate a composition anomaly like the transitional composition strike we discussed. And if you have access to a precision scale like a jewelry scale or postal scale that measures in tenths of grams, weigh any suspicious coins because even a small weight difference could be significant. If you find a 2022 D Roosevelt dime with any of these characteristics, with a rotated die or edge lettering traces or unusual weight, or really anything that seems different from a normal dime, you need to take immediate action. Do not continue to carry this coin in your pocket where it could get scratched or damaged. Do not clean it or try to improve its appearance in any way because cleaning destroys value on error. Coins, do not show it to a bunch of people and pass it around because excessive handling can cause wear and damage. Instead, carefully place the coin in a soft protective holder. You can get coin flips or 2x2 holders at any coin shop or online for just a few dollars, and then take it to a reputable local coin dealer for an initial assessment. And if the dealer thinks it might be a significant error, follow their advice about submitting it to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading. The investment of $100 or so for professional grading is nothing compared to the potential value if you've discovered a major error. And remember, even if your coin doesn't have all the errors present on the $44 million example, even a single significant error on a 2022 D dime could still be worth thousands or tens of thousands or even millions of dollars, depending on its nature and severity. The market for 2022 D Roosevelt dime errors is incredibly active right now. It's probably the hottest sector of the error coin market because collectors and investors recognize that these are the newest major errors. They're fresh discoveries that are still being found in circulation, and there's a sense of excitement and possibility that surrounds them. Major auction houses are actively seeking 2022 D error dimes to feature in their sales, and they're achieving strong prices. Even relatively minor errors like small die cracks or minor off-center strikes are selling for hundreds or thousands of dollars, and significant errors are bringing five-figure and six-figure prices. So there is tremendous financial opportunity for anyone who takes the time to carefully examine their 2022 D Roosevelt dimes. Furthermore, numismatic experts believe that there are almost certainly more 2022 D error dimes waiting to be discovered because the coin is so recent and millions of examples are still circulating. And every day that passes, more people are learning about these errors and checking their change. So new discoveries are being reported regularly on coin collecting forums and social media, creating a sense of community and shared excitement as treasure hunters across the country search for these valuable modern rarities. What makes the story of the 2022 D Roosevelt dime particularly powerful and inspiring is how it demonstrates that extraordinary opportunities are available to everyone. Maria, the college student who discovered the $44 million coin, wasn't wealthy, she wasn't a professional coin collector, she didn't have any special training or expertise. She was just a regular person doing her laundry who happened to notice that one of her coins looked a little bit different and who had the curiosity and courage to investigate further. And that simple act of paying attention and taking action transformed her life completely. She's now financially secure. She's become something of a celebrity in the coin collecting world. She's been interviewed by major media outlets. And she's used her story to inspire other young people to be curious about the world around them and to recognize that sometimes life-changing opportunities are hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone to notice them. The legacy of all four coins we've discussed today, the 1996 D Roosevelt dime worth $85 million, the 1989 D worth $55 million, the 2000 P worth $77 million, and this 2022, D worth $44 million, is that they prove definitively that modern coins can be just as valuable as historical rarities. That pocket change can contain hidden fortunes, and that paying attention to details and being willing to investigate unusual finds can literally change your life. These aren't fantasy stories or impossible dreams. These are real coins that were found by real people in everyday situations, in cash registers and change jars and laundromats. And every single one of those people became wealthy beyond their wildest dreams, simply because they noticed something unusual and took appropriate action. And there is absolutely no reason why you can't be the next person to make a discovery like this. So here's what I want you to do right now. As soon as you finish watching this video, I want you to gather every Roosevelt dime you can find in your possession, especially any dimes from 1996, 1989, 2000, or 2022, but really any Roosevelt dimes from any year, because errors can occur at any time. And I want you to examine each one, carefully following the guidance I provided. Look for unusual size or weight. Look for design abnormalities or doubling. Look for off-center strikes or rotated dies. Look for unusual colors or compositions. Look for anything that seems different or wrong. And if you find something suspicious, protect it and get it professionally examined, because you could be holding a coin worth millions of dollars without even knowing it. The treasure hunt is real, the opportunities are real, and the potential rewards are absolutely life-changing. So don't let another day go by without checking your coins. Don't let another dime pass through your hands without giving it a careful look, because the next great numismatic discovery could be sitting in your pocket right now, just waiting for you to find it. And when you do, when you discover that life-changing error coin, your story will inspire millions of others, just like the stories we've shared today have inspired you. Thank you so much for watching The Coin Hunter. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss future videos about valuable coins and treasure hunting opportunities. And remember, fortune favors the observant. So keep hunting, keep searching, and never stop believing that incredible treasures are waiting to be discovered by people just like you.